You're 35,000 feet in the air. The flight attendant hands you a meal. You take a bite, and something feels off. The tomato juice tastes weirdly good. The chicken tastes like cardboard. The coffee is somehow worse than anything you've ever had on the ground. And you think, did they just cook this badly? Or is something else going on? Here's the thing. It's not the food. It's you. Your body is literally changing the moment that airplane door closes. And by the time you're cruising at altitude, you are not the same person who walked through that gate. Your taste buds, your nose, your brain, all of it shifts. And today, we're going to break down exactly what's happening inside your body at 35,000 feet and why scientists say airplane food is one of the most fascinating experiments in human biology that happens to millions of people every single day. Stay with me because by the end of this, you'll never board a plane the same way again. Let's start with something you probably never think about on a plane. The air. The moment a plane reaches cruising altitude, the cabin pressure drops to the equivalent of sitting on top of a mountain, roughly 6,000 to 8,000 feet above sea level. Now, that doesn't sound like much, but your body notices immediately. Here's what happens. At that pressure, the humidity inside the cabin drops to somewhere between 10 and 20%. To give you a comparison, the Sahara Desert has humidity of around 25%. So the air inside your airplane cabin is actually drier than one of the driest places on Earth. Now, why does that matter for taste? Because your nose is directly connected to how you taste food. Smell and taste are so deeply linked that scientists actually call it a combined sense flavor. Up to 80% of what you think you're tasting is actually what you're smelling. And in that bone-dry cabin air, the tiny little hairs inside your nose, the ones that catch scent molecules and send signals to your brain, they dry out. They stop working properly. Scientists at the Fraunhofer Institute in Germany found that in low humidity and low pressure conditions, your sense of smell drops by as much as 30%. 30%. Gone. Before you even take a single bite. So when that airplane meal tastes bland and flat, it's not just the food. Your nose has already been half switched off. But it gets even more interesting. Because it's not just your nose that's affected. Your actual taste buds behave differently at altitude too. In 2010, Lufthansa, the German airline, funded a serious scientific study to figure out why their food kept getting complaints, even though their chefs on the ground said it tasted great. What they found shocked them. At altitude, your taste bud's sensitivity to sweet and salty flavors drops by almost 30%. Think about that. The two most dominant flavors in almost everything we eat, sweet and salty, become significantly harder to detect when you're flying. This is why airline food always seems under-seasoned. This is why your coffee tastes weak and bitter. This is why that dessert doesn't hit the way it would at home. Your body literally cannot taste salt and sweetness at full strength while you're in the air. But here's the wild twist. Not all tastes are affected equally. Sour, bitter, spicy, umami, that deep savory taste you get from things like tomatoes and mushrooms. These flavors are barely affected at altitude. They stay strong. Some of them even become more intense. This is the secret behind one of aviation's biggest mysteries. Why tomato juice is one of the most popular drinks on planes. On the ground, most people find tomato juice okay at best. But on a plane, passengers order it constantly. Lufthansa alone serves around 1.8 million liters of tomato juice every single year, far more than they ever sell on the ground. Because at altitude, the umami richness in tomato juice comes alive. It tastes deeper, fuller, more satisfying. Your weakened sweet and salt receptors stop competing, and the umami flavor shines through. Airlines that understand this science actually reformulate their food specifically for altitude. They pump up the salt and sugar far beyond what would be normal on the ground just so it tastes correct when you're flying. Okay, so your nose is half switched off. Your sweet and salt receptors are weakened. But there's a third factor that almost nobody talks about, and it might be the strangest one of all: the noise. A plane cabin operates at around 85 decibels of background noise. That's louder than a vacuum cleaner running constantly in your ear for the entire flight. And researchers discovered something remarkable: that level of noise actually changes how food tastes. A study published in the Journal of Experimental Psychology found that loud background noise suppresses your ability to detect sweetness and saltiness, making this effect even worse on top of everything else. But at the same time, and here's where it gets really interesting, loud noise enhances your perception of crunchy textures. Things that crunch seem more satisfying, more intense. And there's another effect. Researchers at Cornell University discovered that background noise actually enhances umami flavors. The savory, deep taste of foods like mushrooms, aged cheese, and yes, tomato juice is boosted by loud ambient sound. So the airplane cabin is essentially a sensory chamber that is scientifically designed, though not on purpose, to destroy your experience of sweet and salty food, while supercharging your response to savory, umami-rich flavors. Every single flight, millions of people are walking into this invisible taste experiment without knowing it. Now here's one more layer to this story. Because it's not just physical. Your brain is playing tricks on you too. When you're anxious, and let's be honest, flying makes a lot of people at least a little anxious. Your body releases stress hormones, cortisol, and adrenaline. And these hormones have a direct effect on your digestive system and your taste sensitivity. Your body goes into a mild alert state. Blood flow is slightly redirected. Your digestive system slows down. And your palate, your overall sensitivity to taste, becomes dulled. On top of that, there's the visual effect. Research in food psychology consistently shows that the presentation of food dramatically affects how we expect it to taste. On a plane, your meal arrives in a small plastic tray, in a foil container, under fluorescent lighting at a slightly uncomfortable temperature. Before you even put the fork in your mouth, your brain has already decided this is going to be mediocre. And that expectation changes the experience. It's not weakness. It's neuroscience. Your brain is a prediction machine, and it shapes what you actually taste based on what it expects to taste. So let's bring this all together. You board a plane. The cabin pressurizes. Humidity collapses to desert levels, drying out your nasal hairs and killing up to 30% of your sense of smell. Your taste buds lose sensitivity to sweet and salty flavors. The constant roar of the engines suppresses those flavors even further, while boosting your response to umami and crunch. Stress hormones dull your palate, and your brain prejudges the meal before it arrives. The result? The chicken tastes like nothing. The dessert seems flat. The coffee is barely drinkable. But that tomato juice? Somehow, impossibly, it's the best thing on the tray. It was never about bad cooking. It was about bad conditions for your senses. The next time you fly and someone next to you orders tomato juice, don't judge them. They've accidentally figured out one of the most counterintuitive tricks in food science. And now, so have you. If you found this mind-blowing, you're going to love what happens to your body during sleep and why scientists say what occurs in those 8 hours is stranger than anything that happens on any airplane. That video is coming next. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. See you on the next one.